This is my dog. He's been here this whole time in my lap.
Oh, wow. Why are you so quiet?
I know. He actually records with me a lot.
Welcome to a new episode of The Usual Saints. I'm Mike D here this week with Saint. What's up, man?
What's going on?
That was your cue, but that's fine.
You didn't hear me? Am I coming in?
I was just busting your balls. You just took a second. That's all.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So technically, I think this is the closest I've been to you in a while. Like I'm staying up here. I don't know how. I know I'm an hour from you, probably 30 something, 40 miles, but it still seems like so far, man. We still have to do the Zoom thing. Let's see. So I want to talk about a few things. I think and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you have heard other stuff besides, COVID and Omicron destroying the world. But the biggest news I wanted to touch on in this A block before we get our special guest voiceover artist and actor and performer, Isabella Tugman. She's going to be our guest next block. John Madden. So, huge in our childhoods, I would say. I mean, watching the football, when he broadcast with Pat Summerall, and of course going to the Madden video games, which he loaned his likeness to, which are now synonymous. You don't say John Madden football or whatever it was the first year it came out. You say Madden and everyone knows what it is. So, I mean, it sucked to see him, go. He was 85, but he'd been out of the limelight. I can't remember the last time I saw him on any program. And so they said, did they say he died unexpectedly? Yeah, they said he died unexpectedly. And I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead, but he was always a bigger dude. So, I mean, at 85, is it really unexpected? But, it just sucks that he's not there anymore, with his booming voice. I hate color commentators to most extents. Tony Romo's kind of a different exception because he can really call the game. It's really interesting to watch him call the game, but they all learned it from Madden's model. It's basically the Madden model is what color commentators are today. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on like Madden and, how he impacted, you, if you watched him a lot growing up or played the games, obviously.
I mean, obviously I'm old enough to have listened to him commentate in the game, and he is a Super Bowl winning coach in the NFL, but obviously the games are what he's going to be known for. And like you said, when a one-word name is synonymous with something, so all you have to do is say Madden and everyone knows about the NFL football game. And to be honest, it not only revolutionized football games and video games, it revolutionized probably all sports video games, period. I mean, EA Sports basically built their entire sports brand off the John Madden football. And so him having a part in that. And again, I guess his secret sauce is basically making things that are complicated. Cause like you get Tony Romo, like I enjoy Chris Collinsworth because a lot of times he's telling me stuff that I don't know. I don't really like the guys. Like I was never a John Gruden fan, and turns out I was right about that. Never a John Gruden fan because, he'd say just what I think that either not only be uninformative, but sometimes just downright basic or dumb. I like this guy because he's a football player. And it's like, I understand what he's trying to convey, but still it comes off as pretty dumb. You know what I'm saying? It's like everyone's out there playing football. But what John Madden would do is take something that's complicated and try to break it down so that people at the basic level can understand, I mean, you're taking guys who spend their entire lives, hours and hours, coming up with complex plays, techniques, strategies, and, on a 2 to 3 hour broadcast, for you to break it down so the layman can understand. Like this guy goes here and he's trying to open up this hole and boom, you got a hole and he runs through it. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing, it's still coming up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Especially when you didn't have every single game on. You didn't have NFL Red Zone. At most, you had 1 or 2 games a week plus the Monday night game. It was just a way to pretty much bring football down to so the masses can understand what they were watching. And I'd even go as far to say as, football on television wouldn't be the same if it hadn't been for John Madden. So, RIP to him. And yeah, I think it was sudden, but I think it happened a few days ago, and they just recently, released that he had passed. But yeah, he was kind of like Johnny Carson too. When he was done, he was done. That was it. It's like they even offered him. He was still at the top of his game. They were going to offer him a max. Well, what then would have still been a max contract, $5-6 million a year, his own tour bus. But he says, nope, I'm done. And he was just done. He's like, he does the football game, but he never. And, after a while, he stopped being the official voice of the football game too. But when he was done, he was like, nope, that's it. Not going to see me no more. I'm going to go retire. And, that's the end of it. So.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Cause you brought up Johnny Carson. That's exactly what he did. It's like he disappeared. And I'm not familiar enough with the situation. I'm not sure if it was just, like you said, he was done or if there were health reasons or whatnot. Obviously Pat Summerall was even a lot older than John Madden. Pat Summerall seemed like he was old forever. John Madden to an extent, but no, for real, come on. Pat Summerall, I felt like was right. 85 the entire time I would watch him call games with John Madden. And he was probably like in his 50s or 60s, you know what I mean? But Madden
and drunk half the time. It's like those. Did you listen to those last few Summerall years? And then you knew it was bad because eventually they had to replace him on the Madden video game because on the broadcast you could just tell he was just coasting and there was just nothing to it. And it was just like he's either drunk or just really, really old and he just cannot do this anymore. And then like the next year they had to replace him on the video game. It was kind of funny.
I did not know that. See the trivia you learn listening to the usual Saints. But yes, rest in peace, Mr. Madden. We will continue playing video games in your honor and watching football, obviously. Their other death, I guess this is going to be the death block, the A block. Did you watch Sharp Objects on HBO with Amy Adams? There was a limited series came out a few years ago.
I know what you're talking about. My wife did, but I never got a chance to get into it.
It was pretty good. It had a definite kind of surprise ending. So it was interesting. She plays like, I think a newspaper reporter who comes back to a small town that she grew up in. And there was something like she was perceived as like, I think of the town whore. She was an alcoholic. I forget exactly the plot of it, but, so throughout the course
they always have to go back to their small town. It's just like,
I know, but it was really well written and directed. And so the director of that, and I guess Big Little Lies, which I've never watched, but I know it was really popular. I don't know how to say this name. It's French, I assume, is Jean-Marc Valier. So he died and he was only 58. Listen, I'm 41, man. That's 17 years. I want to say I hope I outlive this guy. And that was just another unexpected one. I think that was actually on Christmas. They found him like at his cabin. And I haven't seen anything that said any kind of suicide or anything like that. And if it is, I'm hoping it's not. But if it was, I feel bad for the guy. But I feel like it was just more of an sudden unexpected death. So it's so weird to see people die that young. I mean, think about us being 40, me being 41. Think about the 27 club, and everyone who died when they were 27. Kurt Cobain died at 27. John Belushi, 20. Wait, was he 20? He's 33, I think. Chris Farley was 33 too. So, and Chris Farley, think of Chris Farley. Like we were teenagers when he was big on SNL. That dude was only 33, I think, when he died. He was at the height of his game. Well, I don't know. You'd probably say Tommy Boy a few years before, but still in his prime, he was going to voice Shrek. He did voice Shrek, and then he died, so they had to re-record it. So just to have people die in what I perceive as young, it's just crazy. So I didn't know, but if you've not seen
we could take it too, but like Biggie and Tupac died when they were 25. Can you believe it? Like I look at Notorious B.I.G. and see where he's at, and I was like, 20 fucking, you know what? I was still doing it 25. And to think all the things they had done up to them, which sometimes, into the mind of Saint kind of depresses me a bit because I'm like, look at all that Tupac did with 25 years. Biggie only had like 2 albums, and that was tragic. But Tupac was in movies. He had like 5 albums, not to mention the Machiavelli album. And then whether you believe he's like Elvis and still alive, still making albums. But this is as much material that he recorded so they could keep making albums after his death. He was 25. Jimi Hendrix was 27. Janis Joplin, 27. The 27 Club. It's like, man. But yeah, man. I mean, I guess that's part of I guess we're finding out what it's like to be old when all your stars and people you grew up with are now slowly fading. I guess that's how it feels.
All right. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk to Isabella Tugman, voice actor. Go follow her on social media. She is at Izzy Voiceover on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And we'll see how that conversation goes coming up in a little bit. So stay tuned. You're listening to The Usual Saints. We'll be right back.
This is Michaela Lee, and you are listening to The Usual Saints. Because you're cool, and you should know that. Hype!
Welcome back to The Usual Saints. I'm Mike D here with Saint, and we have a special guest. We have Isabella Tugman. How are you doing, Isabella?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm all right. I forget exactly how I found you. I think I was just on Twitter and I was looking for voiceover artists because we'll get into that. Me and Saint have a whole thing with voiceover and whatnot. But and then I found you, and I remember I reached out to you, and then I forgot to reach back out to you. But you're all settled now, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, thankfully, I did write a note on my phone, so I was able to reach back out to you. But yeah, I was right in transition. I was moving. It's been a crazy year. But yeah, thanks for reaching out to me. I'm glad you found me. Now I'm curious how. I'm like, what Twitter strain what dark hole of Twitter did you go down to find me? But hey, here we are. So
I'm pretty sure it had something to do with voiceover. So I mean, we can start there just because it's not like a funny story or anything like that. But me and Saint both wasted $11,000 going to broadcasting school. What was it, Saint, 14 years ago now?
Yeah, about that long. Yeah, about that much. Yeah.
There's no waste. You get some experience. You learn some things. It's good times. Why not? Hey, I went to acting school, and I have a music degree, so I don't think it's wasted. I mean, I loved getting those degrees. So hey, I had fun.
That's the most important thing.
I don't know if I can get a real job, but who needs a real job?
Right.
Wait, is this not a real job? I think doing what you love and doing everything.
Exactly. I just got to make my own work. That's the thing. You're like an entrepreneur. You got to hustle. You got to like find the people who want to pay you to do your thing. And that's it. It's just a different structure. But yeah, it's a real job too.
And I think that's kind of like one of the biggest questions. I mean, that at least I have. I don't want to speak for Saint, but like, we've been looking at, why is it saying start? Stupid Zoom. We've been looking at, voiceover stuff. Me and particularly one of our other guys, Vinny, who hasn't done the show in a little bit, but he has a nice deep, what would you call that, Saint? Not a baritone, is it? Maybe
resonant.
Baritone. Yeah, baritone.
He's a very, very deep voice, like this. I'm Vinny. So he always wanted to do voiceover work.
I know. Yeah, I got it. We go up against, for the same roles.
I guess him, Vinny Tafuri. He's out there.
Clearly, yeah.
He did some voiceover stuff for I think radio shows like AM radio or something like that. But I think that was one of the reasons I did go to broadcasting school, because I kind of knew the video side of things. It did wind up to me going into television and whatnot, but I had to learn like the radio side of things. And I don't want to brag, but Saint, I don't know if you remember, I got 100% on the Bob Carter addiction test. We had to turn it in on a cassette. He said it was one of only 9 people in his entire career to get 100 on that. So do you remember any of that, Saint? I know this is going into the weeds.
I don't remember. No, but
what's it?
Go ahead and brag, but I don't.
I'm sorry. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, it was this little thing that if you had the tape come out, you had to get a pencil, which is the in joke now. Yes.
I am old enough to remember cassettes. Don't worry. I mean,
right.
No, I'm not. What did I say? Never mind.
But I mean, how did you, because we're going to get into obviously your acting and whatnot, because I think that's maybe how you got started. But how did you get into voiceover? Was it through acting and whatnot? Like when you had some lead roles or some supporting roles and whatnot, and you just found your way into it? Or was it something you pursued?
Kind of both. I've been an actor and a singer my whole life. Like I said, a music degree, that's from singing. So I had a lot of vocal training. I always figured I'd make my way into voiceover. I grew up mimicking, sounds in commercials, characters and animations, the radio, you name it. And actually, my first audition was I was invited because somebody knew I was an actor. I think I bombed it. So, I mean, that was like a long time ago when I was in college, but it was on my radar. And about 7 years ago, I was like, you know what? I really want to pursue this full time. I like that I can do this remotely. I can kind of be my own boss. I have that entrepreneurial spirit in me. And I decided to kind of go for it full time about 7 years ago. But the skills were there. I mean, the acting training, the voice training, I just really had to gear myself up to learn the technical stuff, and off I went. Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most important thing is that you got to have that go-getter spirit. You gotta want it. Cause I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I feel like I'm lazy about it. Like I always thought like I could do something, but I don't have the acting background. So I can't really do characters or voices or anything like that. I could maybe do like voiceover reads on like radio or something like that, but I never pursued it. Like I always fell back on the excuse of, oh, I have my day job and then I got the family and I just don't have time. But I mean, obviously you found your way there and that it's working out for you to an extent, right?
Well, you never stop finding your way. I think that's the thing. It's a journey and you're constantly working it and things can change at any point. So like I said, it's about being an entrepreneur and either you find the time, you make the time, or you make excuses. So how bad do you want it? Like, I guess that's the question. And you don't, have to have the acting background necessarily to do some voiceover. There's a lot of like corporate voiceover or e-learning and stuff like that where normal voices, if you can, carry the interest of a listener for simple material, you don't always have to do character voices.
Right. And so what is I know you're doing the voiceover that's what we brought you on for. What is your favorite thing to do? Because you started out with acting and theater and whatnot, right? Am I correct about that?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll get into like each little niche and whatnot. And saying, I don't mean to be hogging all the questions, so feel free to jump in anytime. How did you start?
Go ahead. I'll jump in at some point.
How did you start? Were you like a child actor? Was it something that appealed to you? Was it something you found in high school and just discovered a love for?
My earliest memories are wanting to be a professional performer. Like as a toddler, I would dance around and dress up and beg my parents to take me to auditions. And I would dress up as Carmen Miranda. She was my idol. Like I wanted to be her. I wanted to do this. But growing up in Kansas, I didn't have as many opportunities to be in like feature films and Broadway and all that stuff. So I was kind of stuck with community theater, there's nothing wrong with that. But I did everything I could. And I would read the acting books, like how to make a career. And it'd be like, please take me to New York and LA. And no, until I went to college and really had some independence, that's when I was able to really start pursuing it professionally. But, I got some small stuff as like a teenager. I think I had an agent at age 13 and I did some like modeling and stuff like that, but nothing huge. The Kansas market isn't that big. But yeah, then I moved to LA. I went to college and I started kind of pursuing film and musicals, and I do it all. I love musical theater. I love film. I guess my dream thing would be the culmination of all these things. I would love to do musical theater films. I would love to do Pixar animated films. I would love to be a Disney princess voice. Like I just love the ultimate production of voice and acting and singing and dancing and all these things. So all of it, I guess that's a roundabout way, but all of it.
That's fine. That's a perfectly acceptable answer. Do you have any like inspirations that like led you down this path? Do you like have a favorite performance in any particular medium that like stands out to you and you were like, that's what I want to do when I grow up?
Okay, so obviously I've had lots of idols. Many, many talented performers have inspired me over the years. Like I said, Carmen Miranda being my first. But my really aha moment, I was in a musical as a teenager and Wicked had just come out. And somebody was like, you have some Kristen Chenoweth things going on around you. You should check her out. Check out Wicked. And I started listening to the original cast of Wicked, that album, every day. Every day I was in high school since it came out. I listened to that entire soundtrack. I was obsessed. And then I finally saw it live in Chicago and I was a bawling mess. I was a bawling mess because I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. It just hit me. And maybe I'm from Kansas. Maybe it's because I'm a coloratura soprano. Kristen Chenoweth is a special performer in my heart. I'm very similar to her in a lot of ways, like the comedic blonde thing and the coloratura soprano. I saw Glinda and I was like, that is me. So yes, now Ariana Grande is going to be playing her in the movie. And I was like, well, if it couldn't be me, at least it could be Ariana because she is a talented singer and Kristen Chenoweth's mentor. She's her, oh my God, Kristen is her mentor. That's what I'm trying to say. So anyway, it couldn't be me. Darn it. Just kidding. No, but that was a really defining moment for me. It's spectacular.
All right. And how do you feel about working in films? I've seen you were, a lead in a few, right?
Oh, gosh,
yeah. How do you feel about working like in that medium? Because in my, just so you're aware, like I always wanted to be, from when I was 14 years old, I wanted to be a film director. It didn't pan out, but then I wanted to be a film editor, which led me into TV editing, which led me into being a photographer and blah, blah, blah. So, I found my way down different paths. How was it for you, like working on a set? Was it, I guess let's go with your first time on a set. Were you overwhelmed? How old were you the first time?
Oh man, that's funny that you mentioned that because I was pregnant. My mom, and I wasn't pregnant. My mom was pregnant with me when she was working on a film set. And then when I was born, she was taking me as a newborn onto the film set. I don't remember what the movie was. It had some names in it though. She was working in the costume department. So you could say my first time on set was in the womb and then as a newborn baby. So maybe I was born into it. I don't know. But yeah, I'm trying to remember my very first time that I remember. I think it just felt like home. It kind of felt like where I wanted and needed to be and belonged. And I feel that way on a stage too. Anytime I'm in front of a camera or mic or something, I don't know, that's my home. But I love it. Yeah. And film was something I wanted to do from an early stage. I think, like I said, just because of lack of opportunity, that's how I ended up more in theater. So I've done significantly more live performance, but I love film. I'd love to do more. And I'm hoping that, the pandemic calms down a little bit so I can get back into that a little bit. I'd love to start performing in films again.
Yeah. Especially with the live performing, I know it started all back up a little bit, but then I know, Hugh Jackman just got COVID and I think they canceled that for a while. The Music Man, I think it is. So, that's still happening, and where are you located now, by the way?
I just moved to Arizona.
Okay.
So I'm just outside of Phoenix in the suburbs. I know. I've lived in 7 states now. I'm all over the place.
But you're not like, what are you, a hop, skip, and a jump on a flight to LA?
From LA. Now I'm fast. Right. I was in LA. Then somehow I moved to the East Coast. So then I was like I was in New Jersey, suburbs of, New York City. And then I moved to Texas. I don't know, Austin, which was cool. And now I'm in Arizona. So woo. I'm just all over the place. But I'm lucky that I'm pursuing voiceover full time right now, and that I can do that anywhere. And yeah, I'm excited to be nearby LA. I just went back to LA for the first time in a long time over the summer. That was interesting. Yeah, memories. But I do have a soft spot for California. Do love it.
All right. And you'll be back in LA?
Yeah, maybe not full time all the time, but yeah, for projects for sure.
Good. Have you ever struggled with any sort of like performance anxiety for the stage, or have you always been kind of a natural, I don't care who's in the audience, if there's hundreds of people, I want to do it?
There's definitely a thrill, it gets your adrenaline pumping, and I feel that. I will kind of get the jittery feel, but it's a high and I love it, so yeah, it doesn't faze me. I feed off of it. So yeah, big auditorium full of hundreds of people, not phased. It's awesome. I love it.
All right. And can you do any accents? And in particular, is there any that are easier for you? Anything you do like that?
Yeah. I guess I can do one of my British accents. I'm very acclimated to doing the British ones. In fact, so much so that in class, when I was taking accent classes, I was good at the prim and proper accents, and then they had me do New York Italian, and they were like, "What the heck is this?" I almost cursed because New York Italian is cursing. Anyway, my classmates were laughing at me because I don't usually do the more, unrefined accents. But yeah, I do New York Italian, I do Russian, I do RP, I do Cockney, I do French, German. I learn them quickly because of my, I do them so much better when I'm reading a script and not going off the top of my head. So forgive me for not my best. But I picked them up easily because of my ear for singing and training with voice. But yeah, RP is something I do a lot and I can do very naturally, which is easiest for me.
And just FYI, in case you didn't know, like you can say whatever you want on this podcast.
Good. Yeah, I almost said the F word and I was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. And then I tripped up. So whoops.
No, we play very nice with our interviewees unless, they go off the rails too. And then we're like, hey, great, we're having fun. But we don't, like our A and C block, we could talk about, news and politics, pop culture, but then we can go into deeper recesses of the human mind in some cases. So it all depends.
Right.
Sainte, I know you had some technical questions and things like that. What do you have?
Right. So, and this question is always funny because I understand it's kind of like a pre-COVID time and like a post-COVID time. So like pre-COVID, did you find when, you decided to get more or focus more on the voiceover part, did you find was it easier just to have your own equipment from home, or were you still having to go to like auditions and I don't know, go into a studio somewhere in order for people to hear your voice? Or is it more you laying your voice down on your own equipment, your own tracks, and sending it to, I guess, casting agents or whoever's in charge of finding voice talent?
Yeah, the equipment is so good now and so cheap. There's really no reason not to have your own home studio. It's a requirement at this day and age, especially since COVID happened. Pre-COVID, I've always had a home studio. I've always worked from my home studio. I haven't yet needed to go into a lot of recording studios for anything. And that's the case with many voice actors. The only exceptions were some of the big AAA games, or if you're doing mocap, motion capture, or, something with Disney or one of the big players, they might want to have you in the studio. But even, since pandemic hit, a lot of people have moved to the home studio and continue to because they realize we can do it now with technology. So now it's very rare, ultimately, that you even have to go into the studio. But there's still some cases where they want that.
And did you build your own audio booth, or did you buy one of those ones that are prefab?
Studio Bricks. Yes, this is a prefab Studio Bricks booth. I love it. It's expensive and very heavy. It's like 1,000 pounds. The door alone, I had to hire like 3 guys to carry it up 3 flights of stairs because it's so heavy. But yeah, it's a soundproof booth, and it's awesome. I love it. Studio Bricks. Look it up. But some people build their own too, and that's great.
I don't know if I'm labor intensive enough to build my own. So I don't know if I could do all that.
There's a lot that goes into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I even just soundproofing my little office at home that I use for the podcast. It's not great. It's not working out for me.
You have a few panels up in here and I've got more stuff to do. It's like, oh man, this is work. Like,
it's a lot. But, yeah, it's a lot. And to do it right, unless you really know audio engineering, like a lot of people just have to hire somebody, it's a lot. It's tough stuff, but it's cool.
Well, do you find studios or anybody who's willing to hire you, do you find that as an advantage when they're, say, looking for somebody? If you say, hey, I actually have a professional studio here, like, you guys don't have to worry about sending somebody out to me or something. Do you find that as an advantage to you?
Oh, absolutely. And at a certain point, it becomes a necessity.
Right.
If you're just starting in voiceover, I say grow as you go. You don't want to invest in a $10,000 booth and then not know if you're even right for this industry, if you'll get jobs, if you have the training. So I worked for a while just in a walk-in closet that I treated myself, and it sounded pretty good. But if a neighbor started mowing their lawn, I had to stop. And you cannot have that during a live recorded session that's being directed. You can't have that. So like I said, it becomes a necessity at a certain level if you're working enough and you're a professional enough, which at that point you should be making enough money to invest, in your own booth. But yeah, it's important to have the right equipment, the setup.
And what's the biggest campaign or anything that you've worked on? Like, I assume you do local radio. I mean, you definitely have the voice and probably can easily get that. I don't know. You tell me. But what would someone know you from if like they heard you, like, are you on any national commercials or anything like that?
I don't have any national ones right now. I've been doing a lot of audiobooks, so check those out. I'm pretty excited about my new dinosaur one coming up called Dino Rift, so coming soon. I do have a radio imaging agent and a demo. You can listen to that on my website, izzyvoice.com. And I don't have a ton of stuff out there. I do I have some kind of regional commercials with time financing. I have a lot of internal corporate videos that will never see the light of day, of course. Hey, pays the bills. And I'm getting some character work. Recently, I'm starting to branch out a little bit more into that. I'm in a video game called Null Hack, which is fun. And some other things as well.
Null Hack?
Null Hack. Check out Null Hack. Yeah, I'm the tavern salesperson. Like, hello, Hunter. Buy my potions. Like, I don't know. It's funny, but I had fun doing that. Cosmic Dawn animated series. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I don't know. I got to check my resume. I forget. It's not bad. I kind of just done and then move on to the next and chop. But like I said,
no,
I'm going to do it. But I love all my projects. My favorite project is always the one I'm working on.
Well, I mean, that's the one you're putting the passion into at the moment, and that
right.
It's not, once you do so much, especially with voiceover, like it's not that you forget what you've done. It's that you've moved on to the next project. That project's in the past. And so you got to focus on what you're doing now.
You always have to keep looking for work. Because your job ends very quickly and you got to keep paying your bills. So you're always hustling to find the next project. And man, I send out so many auditions. I just kind of set it and forget it. And then it's just great when it comes back and you get a job and you're like, yay. So, and I have a few that I just booked, but I don't know if I'm allowed to announce them yet. That's the other thing. You have to check your NDAs and make sure you can talk about things because sometimes projects aren't ready. And you can't talk about them until you get the go ahead. So forgive me for not having everything at the top of my mind, but yeah, more in the works.
That's fun. What would you mentioned Pixar and animated films and things like that. Do you have like something that you would love to do at some point, like that regarding acting, voice work? What would you want to do? Like your biggest thing that you could dream of?
Voicing a Disney princess or starring as Glinda in Wicked the movie. But like I said, that's already been taken. So maybe next time.
Maybe Wicked 2, the sequel.
Right, Wicked 2.
It's an IP.
Like
He'll be
series or
right.
Series? I don't know. Yeah. Ariana Grande already stole my thunder, so it's okay. Girl's talented. I'll take it. At least they picked somebody who can sing.
She has a voice. I was like, that doesn't seems like odd casting, but she can't sing. I will give her that much. She does have some pipes.
And like I said, Kristen Chenoweth, who originated the role of Glinda, is her mentor. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. We'll see how it turns out. I'm excited.
Well, I don't know if you can talk about anything, but you let me know. Have you ever submitted any like samples or anything for any like animated films? Like, have you been to that point where like, I'm just going to put myself out there. Screw it. Let's see what happens.
Well, I mean, I do all the time for what I can access. Those really top level ones are hard to get unless you got the right agent and you have the right it's a build, and maybe someday. I have had talks with a potential project. Like I said, it's not where I can talk about it yet, but maybe I might have an in soon. But nice. Yeah, I've auditioned for lots of animations, but the big ones, we'll see. We'll see. To be continued. Yeah. I can't listen. And this is just me meeting you for the first time. Like, you have like a great voice. It's like very vibrant. And so I feel like that people should be looking at you, but I know there's a lot of people out there auditioning. So I get it. I'm not those people making those decisions. You got to think of that, I guess. But yeah, I appreciate that. No, of course. So regarding recording, so me and Sainte, right now we use like Audition to edit our audio, and I use Premiere. So Adobe's whatever, $20 a month, and that's what I'm using right now. But when you record, do you use a specific program or anything? And this is kind of like in the weeds technical stuff, but whatever, I don't care. I'm curious. so how do you record your stuff?
So am I.
Everybody, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm cool talking tech. Everybody loves Adobe Audition, and I hate subscription models. But I mean, I guess Auto Heal is like where it's at when it comes to editing. I haven't personally used it, but I have many friends who do. I love Twisted Wave. It just keeps it simple. That's usually what I use, honestly. I have Studio One Pro. It's very complex. I got that just for when I want more complex stuff for editing. But for the most part, you don't need it with voiceover. So I keep it simple with Twisted Wave.
All right, cool. Yeah. And when you're doing the audiobooks, I did listen to some of your, samples on that. Like, is that something that's exciting for you? To me, it'd be very daunting because, at doing audiobooks, you do multiple characters sometimes, right? And you're reading the narration part, you're doing the character voices. Is that something that you get directed on? Is that one of those live recording things, or is that something you're making up? And if someone likes it, great. If they don't, maybe they'll tell you to change it or edit it.
At this point, most audiobook productions are self-directed. At the very high level, occasionally you will have a director. But me, yeah, I'm producing the whole thing. I'm doing all the characters, all the narration. It is daunting because they are long. They are so long. But hey, they feel good when you complete it. You're like, that is an accomplishment. And I love doing all the characters because that's a true acting exercise that enables me to play characters I'd never get the opportunity to otherwise. So, all ages, all ethnicities from all around the world, you don't get that any other way because it's a one-man show. So it's a lot of fun, but yes, challenging.
So not to get into like any like personal finances, but just assuming that like on Disney level, Pixar level animation, those are probably going to be the highest paying projects. But on like the next tier is like the amount of work, like you said, putting into an audiobook. Would that be comparable to working like on, say, video games, or say maybe like a half hour animation? Is the pay scale, and again, I don't want to get into like your personal finance, but is the pay scale some kind of comparable, or would you just make a lot more money doing an audiobook? Go ahead.
Audiobooks are one of the worst paid spaces
really
in. Yeah. Wow. I know. And it seems
like so much work though.
It is. That's what's ironic about it. It's like, I feel like it's the most work for the least money. But it's it's a pursuit of passion. And I also just like having something to talk about and sell and, get excited about and do giveaways over whatever. I don't know. I love books. I've always been a nerd for books. So yeah, it's a sweet spot. Just, I always like to have one I'm working on, but yeah, really, audiobooks pay by the finished hour, and a standard rate, the standard union minimum rate is $250 per finished hour. Now that may take you 3 hours to produce. It may take you 10 hours to produce, each 1 hour.
Wow.
So do the math. It depends on how fast you are, how good I don't know, like everybody's different, depends on the book. Some are more complex. There are people who will pull in a higher rate than that. But yeah, I recommend not taking less than $250 per finished hour, but some people do. I mean, there's indie authors who can't afford as much.
The reason I asked, because I mean,
you might get lucky with royalty share, because if it ends up selling a lot of books, then you can make a lot of money. But it's a gamble. You never know.
Right. The reason I asked, because I've pretty much the last few years, my day job, I work a job where I work long hours, and I'm able to listen to a lot of audiobooks. So I'd say in the past 5 years, the amount of actual books I've read, page in hand has been very slim. I've probably devoured, I don't know, maybe 30 audiobooks. And then when I got to think about it, like, man, this would have to be really hard. If you mess up, you have to go back. And some of the audiobooks I have are like 15 to 16 hours. I just can imagine that amount of work. But yeah, man, it's, I was like, hopefully, people can make some good money doing audiobook work. But it's not, it's not roofing, but if it's a passion, then I can appreciate
and there are
it.
people who make comfortable livings doing it full time. It's not the only thing I want to do. I think I like to keep it to shorter recording sessions. I can do a few hours at a time, but man, to do only audiobooks full time, it's a lot. But I have people who absolutely love it and they do make a good living doing it. So, but yeah, I'd much rather be on a AAA video game or, some corporate stuff and commercial stuff like that. That's where the money is, and it kind of depends on negotiations and your agent and the project. And if there is royalties, if it's something making money, I don't know, but it's all across the board. I mean, there's plenty of people trying to get into this who are making practically no money. Then, plenty of people make, a decent living, nothing extravagant. And there's just a small percentage who are making really hella good money. But yeah, to reach that point, don't be sold this pipe dream. A lot of people think voiceovers, it's so easy and I can be making 6 figures in 6 months. I'm like, no. Yeah, it'll take you years to build up. And there's a lot that goes into it. But yeah, I feel like if you have the right attitude and work ethic, there's room for everyone and you just grow as you go. So I'm still growing. I'm growing all the time. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I think that kind of leads into another question I have. So you mentioned a few times, like, do you have an agent right now?
I have a radio imaging agent and I have kind of a general all things kind of agent. I just finished my new commercial demo, so I'm about to kind of search for some commercial representation. But for the most part, I'm a freelancer. Yeah.
Okay. And also, because I've seen this on a few websites, and the websites I do want to talk to you about to see if you utilize any of these websites that I've heard about and seen and whatnot. I've read specifically on several of them, and you mentioned something about like a union, a standard rate. Like, is there like a national union for like voiceover actors that one should consider joining at a certain point? Because, I'm assuming people are out there almost lowballing themselves, not to mention others, because they want to get their foot in the door. And while I can appreciate that, I can also appreciate that kind of hampers people's efforts to put forth stuff because they don't want to degrade. I don't know, degrade's not the right word. They don't want to lessen their worth by not getting what they should be paid.
There's a level of self-respect you need to have for yourself. And to be honest, if you're going to have any clout in this industry, any chance, you need to invest your time and money into training, into coaching, into equipment. And so if I'm pouring all of this into myself, my career, my talent, I need to respect myself by taking payment. Now, I understand sometimes I work on indie projects, student projects, whatever. I understand that I don't have a big budget. I'm willing to work with your budget, but don't say you can't pay me at all. Like, it's a matter of respect. I've invested tens of thousands of dollars, in years of my life, into developing my talent. And I continue to. It doesn't stop. So, yeah, I say, have some standards for yourself. Never lowball. Never say, I'll work for free. Don't undercut other people. It's not a good look. As far as unions, there's a lot more non-union work out there than union work. And yes, there is a union for voiceover. It's the same as film and television. It's SAG-AFTRA in the United States. And I don't recommend joining that right away because you might cut yourself out of the majority of your work. So until you're ready, don't join. I'm union eligible, but I haven't joined yet because I haven't had a good reason to. All of my work has really been non-union up to this point. There are options and ways around that. I do live in a right to work state, meaning if I were union, it's both ways, actually. Even though I'm non-union, I can do union jobs. If you are FICOR, which is a tricky topic, beware, you can pay union dues, but you're not technically a member. You can't vote, but that enables you to work both union and non-union jobs as well. It's politically touchy. A lot of people don't like that, but it does exist. So there's all kinds of things. The union does try to protect you. You're on your own with non-union work. So yeah, don't let yourself get abused and taken advantage of. Yeah. Always have a contract. Always. Yeah. It's a business.
These are things I wouldn't think about, Saint. This is great. I love talking to someone.
Yeah, it's a business.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of people approaching you, like from hearing your demos or from, knowing you, asking you? Because, this happens in every field. I feel like, especially, the creative fields, like where they're like, hey, we don't have, like you said, I don't have any budget. I know you're not taking the work, but like, do you get a lot of people approaching you saying, hey, we don't have a budget, but this would be great for your portfolio? Anything
all
like
the time. Oh, let me get paid in exposure. Thank you for your exposure. Guess what? If you can expose me to that many people, you should probably have the money to pay me. Like, no, sorry. The exposure you're going to get me if you're not paying people is probably not good. No, sorry, guys. Yeah, I get it all the time. And no, I mean, I'm nice about it. I'm never going to say, oh, I'll never work with you. Like maybe someday they'll work their way up to a place where they can pay people. But at this moment in time, no, I am not accepting unpaid work.
Damn it. I was going to ask her to do a bumper, Saint. What the hell?
Sorry.
Oh yeah. So I did want to touch on websites. So I've looked myself at a few websites and I put like a demo out there, but nothing great or anything like that. Like I said, I've not had any professional work or anything like that. What is it, like Voice 123? And I know there's some other websites out there. Are there any particular websites you would point someone to get like a start to like look for stuff and put themselves out there? And, I know some of the websites even have like scripts you can read to like kind of get yourself out there. Some of them I saw have accents. I'm not trying any accents because I don't think I'd be great at it. But I did read some stuff and put it online. I'm like, hey, let's see if anyone listens to that and responds. Any in particular that you would recommend for anyone?
I would not do a pay to play site until you are ready and already working, to be honest. I mean, and that's kind of a catch-22 because you're going there to find work. But until you've had the training and until your coach gives you the go ahead and says you're ready to get work. And, I wouldn't start with that because you're paying money and it's a rat race. Like you're up against hundreds and thousands of other people auditioning. And if you don't know how to play that game, you're going to get trampled and and some of them rate you. Like I'm on Voice 123 and I like it. I like it a lot. In fact, you can get $50 off using my referral links and all of that. But if you're not ready, like there's actually like it'll rate you and put you in like a slush pile. I feel like if you're not doing very well, you're not going to get the better auditions. It's also scaled according to how much you pay. And so, yeah, I mean, you can start smaller and build your way up as you make more money. But yeah, I held off a long time until I joined Voice 123. But Dalgo is ethically great, the best structured pay to play website, but it's more of a European clientele and it has less auditions. So I've had to work on my transatlantic accent because they don't always want American voices. So it's kind of this in between. Am I British? Am I American? You don't know. It's indefinable, but it's ethically a great site. But yeah, I just try to find your own work. You need to make sure you're good enough, get coaching, get your demos, get a presence, understand your strategy for your business. Maybe there's a lot of direct marketing that goes involved. A lot of people just make the majority of their work from that and not even do pay to play websites. But yeah, if you're going to join those, be ready to join the rat race. Yeah. There's a lot of unpacking to do with that topic, but go to voiceover conferences and they have panels on that. And those are really informative. You'll learn a lot.
Okay. Regarding the self-directing for the audiobooks and everything like that, are you at a point yet where you feel like you can, I mean, I'm not going to say you're ever going to get everything on the first take, but how many takes do you do? Like, is it something you can tell you're satisfied with? Or are you spending hours and hours editing? Because until you find that take, and you probably have an editing computer right outside the booth there. So it's not like you can't hop right back in, record it again and get it right. But
I edit in my booth, honestly. It makes the workflow way faster. And yeah, if I need to re-record something, I just do it right here while I'm sitting here with my mic. Yeah, my first audiobook, I had a lot of I am a perfectionist. And so I spent way too much time nitpicking every line, every character, every read. And in fact, like my first several audiobooks, I listen to them now. I'm like, oh my God, like I am so much better now. I think I've just gotten in the flow. I still stumble and mess up all the time. Don't get me wrong, but I do punch and roll if you're familiar with that technique. And so I hear myself and I've learned to listen when something goes wrong or it doesn't sound authentic and true. And I redo it immediately. And I listen back again after I've finished editing and just catch any little mistakes and I'm good. You can't be too nitpicky with audiobooks because it'll take forever. And like I said, it doesn't actually pay that much. So you just got to learn what's natural. And I think that really plays into the acting training. It's just you learn what is truthful and authentic and what is phony and crap. And you just learn to try to be as fluent with that as you can and just go for it. Yeah. But you got to release some perfection too, or else you'll spend 12 hours on each finished hour. And that's not really worth your time, is it?
No. That's kind of what I was thinking. Like, I mean, if you are a total perfectionist and you just go nitpick every detail, you're going to be there forever. And you're going to get that, like you said, 12 hours doing 1 hour.
Do the math. If you're making $250 per finished hour divided by 12, like you're kind of making like almost minimum wage if you pay taxes, all these things. Like, and a lot of people they outsource their mastering. I do my own editing and mastering and all of that. So add those expenses on top of it too. It's just not profitable. You have to learn to be fast and efficient. But good. Have you ever also be good? Yeah.
Well, that's probably important.
No
that's
pressure.
one of those top three.
Yeah, but you'll get better as you go. I'm not saying
be good. Yeah,
be good. Yeah, and weirdly, I've done more than you can see on my website because I got into the romance audiobook space, the steamy romance. So I have a pseudonym I do those under. But yeah, I've gotten better since my first audiobooks. My gosh, but I am super excited about my dinosaur book. Like I said, Dino Rift. So excited. Jurassic Park-esque. Super fun. Anyway, plug in. See, it's fun to have stuff to promote.
That's right. You get the plugs in, that's great.
Why
not? Have you ever considered, I don't want to say that. I feel like I said that already. How do you feel about like animated comedies? Like I'm big into like South Park, or I just finished Super Mansion, which we had Zeb Wells. We interviewed him last year. That was his series. Awesome. I love that series. Robot Chicken. I know they use a lot of celebrities, but
man, I geeked out. I got to meet Seth Green. I was kind of a background extra in a movie with him, and you can see me with him on screen. I was like, yeah, but I geeked out. He's super nice, by the way. But I was like, oh, the Robot Chicken and all the stuff you do. It's like so cool. Anyway, yeah, I love all of that. I'm a geek. I'd love to. Sure. Absolutely. I don't discriminate if it's good, especially, but yeah, I'd love to get there someday. We'll see.
Unless it's pseudo porn, then you have to use the fake name.
There's a line too. I mean, like, I'm not. Steamy romance is one thing. I mean, these are actually good stories, well-written books. You'd be surprised, like the romance space. I have some appreciation for it. There's some good storytelling. So just because it has some steamy scenes in it doesn't make it porn. But yeah, like, I'm not going to do something. If it crosses a certain line, I'm like, well, yeah.
I use that.
Not with my name.
I use that term jokingly. My wife is huge into the romance novels. Yeah. Like that's all she buys. Like, and I'm like, I don't understand the appeal, but whatever. If it makes you happy, go read it. I know.
Huge. Yeah.
It's not that. It's just there's so many of them. I'm like, can there be so many different romance? I'm like, there are like thousands of these things. Like but I guess if people are buying them, I guess like
huge demand. Yeah. Huge. Yeah. That's fun. I like it.
All right.
Great fandom.
So here's a question: as seeing how your voice is your moneymaker, is there any special things that you do to keep your voice at a good level? Is there like teas that you drink? Do you like not speak, or do you try not to use your voice that much when you know you have a big project coming up?
Yes, all of the above. I'm fortunate to have had a lot of professional singing training. I actually was on track to be an opera singer for a while, and talk about, having to really take care of your voice. There's so many tips. Avoid alcohol, stay hydrated, get a lot of rest, make sure you exercise your body as well as your voice. It is a muscle. So you need to stretch and warm up and not attempt anything too crazy, before you're ready, because you can damage your voice. So if you're doing screaming and all that stuff, you need to know how to support it and use your whole body. That's where training comes in. I highly recommend vocal training, singing training for even just spoken word. So thankfully, I know how to protect my voice with technique. But also, I do. If I feel a tickle, if I feel stressed, like you might need to go on vocal rest. You might not want to talk at all. I love gargling with salt water if I have a sore throat. That is an amazing remedy. It will clear up your sore throat. Yes. Tea with honey, herbal teas specifically, avoiding caffeine and alcohol. Those are drying. Avoiding dairy. There's so many things. When your insulin is a part of your body, anything that creates a reaction, you can get that phlegm thing going on. That'll affect you.
Sorry. Okay.
Lovely. Right.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Right into the microphone. Appreciate it.
I had to throw the comedy bit in there. That's it. Jeez.
Right. So but a lot of it is technique, knowing how to support it, breathing correctly, not screaming, and tearing apart your vocal cords. Don't do that. You may never work again. You can cause irreparable damage to your vocal cords. So get training. Take care of yourself. Woo. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that is a question I would have right there. Speaking of like the screaming, like, so you get like horror movies or movies where like there are screaming, like, have you been trained, whether it was in your, musical theater background or whatnot, like to be able to do a scream that is appropriate for, a scene where it's not going to mess you up and screw your voice up?
There's absolutely a way to do it. I did actually have a class on this in my performing arts conservatory, because it does come up. And especially if you're doing, horror and video games, like especially those action packed ones, you're going to have to scream. Hopefully those sessions are short. You hydrate a lot. You keep it to the end of the day after you're very warmed up, and you don't push it to a point where it hurts. It should never hurt. If it starts hurting, you need to stop and reevaluate. But yes, there is a way to healthfully do it. This is also what screamo musicians and singers learn how to do. Otherwise, they would tear up their vocal cords. So there's a technique. Get some training. There's coaches out there.
Is that something you have any interest in, like, or any ability for? Like, I know you can sing in theater, but have you ever like thought of pursuing like singing and writing songs and stuff like that?
So actually singing kind of was like my main thing for a long time, because that was something I was quantifiably good at. Now I'm super rusty, so I'm trying to get back into it. And it's embarrassing because, again, perfectionist. So I'm like, putting things out there, but need to just get over it, and progress, not perfection. Anyway, I was going teaching. So it's funny because when you're in music school, they're all like, oh, well, how many people really make a performance career out of it? Most people end up teaching. I never wanted to be a singing teacher, ever. I just didn't want to like sit there and listen to out of tune singing all day. Is that bad? That sounds really bad. No, but I am primarily a performer. Now, as far as coaching for voiceover and other things, acting, I'd be more open to that. I totally. I'm not doing it right now. I'm mostly focusing on my voiceover work, performance work. Possibly in the future. Yeah.
All right. And I guess we can wrap up the interview with, and we touched a little bit on at the beginning about it, but do you have any advice for people who are trying to get in the field? Like, I'd say more kids. I mean, I guess you can be any age. I mean,
any age,
Sainte,
sure.
Yeah, I know. Nowadays, like you got the home studio and you get, like you said, the equipment's cheap enough. I mean, hell, this is a Blue Yeti USB mic, and I sound okay. It's nothing compared to your little studio.
A lot of people get started on that, and the sky's the limit. So you grow as you go, as I said. I'd say get training, stay humble. Watch your ego. A lot of people have egos. Learn to listen to yourself, because you're going to hear yourself a lot. It really comes down to acting training, and then you gotta learn the tech side. But There's classes. It's doable. I've known people who've started a career in their 60s. You know, it's never too late. I know a lot of people get afraid of ageism, and I've been caught up in that too, especially being an on-camera actress. You worry about like, oh no, am I going to age out of whatever the industry? But no, I mean, it's a great field. Like I said, as long as you have the right attitude, it's a business. Be ready to work hard, manage your expectations, you know, go slow. But it's persistence over time. Just stay consistent and learn. Never stop learning. Go to conferences, get coaching, all that stuff. Yep.
All right. Well,
before we leave, hold on. I got one last question because I have mine. But who, if you would say, who's your favorite voice actor, whether it's animation or, you know, whatever, video games, whatever, who would you say is your number one favorite for whatever reason, whether, you know, you just love their work or you just particularly love that person? Who is your favorite voice actor for you personally?
You know, that's an impossible question, right?
Right. I mean, I have mine, but then again, I'm not in the business, and I don't want you to burn any bridges where they're like, oh, I heard you on that one podcast.
Well, but there's just so many I love. You know, one that pops into my head is Rob Paulson, who is Pinky from Pinky and the Brain, which I loved growing up, and he's just great. He's a lot of fun. I love Tara Strong. There's so many. Yep. How do I pick? No, I can't pick just one. And of course, my brain will go blank and I'll forget my long list of favorites. But there's a couple. They're super talented. Love them. Yeah.
I hate when I keep thinking of questions, but I got one more.
Sure, go for it. I got all night.
Have you? Oh, I don't. I have to go drink and ruin my voice. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
No, obviously it's a lot of solo work with voice acting and whatnot, but have you been in a situation where you don't have to name names or anything? Have you been in a situation where you worked with someone and it was difficult for any particular reason working with them, whether it was a technical aspect or them just being kind of a diva, I guess, or anything like that? Or have you not experienced that? Hopefully the latter, but.
Oh, I've experienced that. I mean, the people in voiceover have been especially wonderful. So I don't have any really complaints about that. But through my life of just working as an actor in general, you know, on projects, yeah, you deal with divas, you deal with attitudes. Sometimes you deal with people who just aren't giving you anything to work with. That's really frustrating as an actor because you play off of each other. So if you're dealing with a bad actor, especially bad writing, bad script, then it's hard to be a good actor yourself. And then you look bad and that doesn't feel good. So yeah, sometimes, I mean, it's a mixed bag. You just learn to roll with it. But
that topic's actually, I don't know if anyone is watching Curb Your Enthusiasm this season. That's a plot line throughout the season. This young girl who has no acting skill or talent at all has to be cast on Larry David's show, and Ted Danson came up to him in the most recent episode. He's like, I can't work with this. She gives me nothing to work with. Just like you said, right, she's giving me nothing to work with.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It happens, right? It's hard. Yeah, you try to carry the show when somebody is like cannot act. It's awful. It's really hard.
All right. Well, Isabella, I want to thank you for coming on. Let's see. You got your upcoming audiobook, Dino Rift.
Dino Rift. Yeah.
What's the bartender video game that you're in?
Noel. Oh, Noel Hack.
Hack.
I'm not a bartender. I am a tavern. Wait, no, not tavern. I was a tavern girl in something else. I forget. No, I'm the shopkeeper. Female.
Shopkeeper. Okay.
That's what I am. Yeah, it's like an old retro pixelated game. It's super fun. Anyway,
that's cool.
It's so hokey. I love it. I love everything I do. That's the thing. I don't know. I get into it. It's all acting to me. Even the corporate stuff. It's like, okay, I'm speaking to a corporate blah. You know, it's all acting. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see. Find out more at izzyvoice.com. That's probably your voiceover website, I would assume. And then Isabella Tugman is more your acting and general website.
Yes, gotcha. Which I definitely need to update. I have a new website coming soon for my voiceover too. So stay tuned. And follow me on social media at Izzy Voiceover. I'm all over the place. I love to connect with people. So let's do it.
Well, Isabella, I want to thank you very much for coming on our small, humble little podcast here. I had a lot of fun. I could speak for myself. Sainte, you had fun, I assume.
I had a great time, except for the guy hacking into the microphone.
Oh,
That part was kind of, but no, thank you for coming on. You were great.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun too. And so did Beanie. This is my dog. He's been here this whole time in my lap.
Oh, wow.
Why is so quiet?
I know. He actually records with me a lot because he's just
Really?
a little lap baby. So I thought I'd use him. He's the special guest. Aside from me, of course.
All right.
Special guest.
Beanie and Isabella, thanks for coming on. We'll be right back with a little bit more of the usual Saints. Stay tuned.
Hey, I'm Isabella Tugman, and you've been listening to The Usual Saints.
Welcome back to The Usual Saints. I'm Mike D here with Saint, and we just interviewed Isabella Tugman. I thought that was a pretty great interview. I always like when I can find people. I mean, listen, I love when we interview celebrities or pseudo celebrities like George Hardy, or like a real celebrity like George. I mean, no offense, Zeb Wells or something like that. And hey, by the way, Matt Seinrich, you told me I have the DMs. You said you would come on the podcast if you had something to promote. And Robot Chicken's new season came and went, and I never heard from you, so I'm gonna have to hit you up. But Isabella Tugman, that was pretty fun.
He might be a little busy. Might be a little busy to come on our shitty little podcast. Like, oh yeah, dude, I'm responsible for a whole season of a TV show. You know, sorry I couldn't come do your little podcast, but nah.
Were you? I forget, because it's been a year almost at this point. Were you in that Zeb Wells interview?
No, I wasn't. That's like one of the ones I really regret I missed out on.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And so at one point during the interview, because I don't know if I mentioned this, my cousins went to high school with Matt Seinrich on Long Island. And so my cousin Bethy, she's been on the show, obviously, she reached out to Matt and got some questions for me to ask Zeb during the podcast. And so I brought up some stuff to Zeb like during the podcast, and you can see the smile. If you go back and look at the YouTube interview with him, you can see the smile when he kind of realizes like what's going on. I'm like, yeah, I got fed some of that stuff by Matt from my cousins. So it was pretty cool. So we have that in, you know what I mean?
Right.
But just hearing from Isabella, like, what her passion is and like what her suggestions are. Cause I don't know about you. I've always been told, and it's bullshit. It's not bullshit, but whatever, oh, you have a radio voice. I've also been told I have a face for radio, but that's fine. But you didn't want me to throw the joke out there, but I thought you'd go there, but I didn't want to leave it hanging too long.
Hey, someone's got to be Jeremy on this podcast, but go ahead.
I just always I have several profiles set up, and I started like some demo work and stuff like that, but I've never put too much time into it. And that's my problem. That is all my fault. And so have you ever thought of pursuing like what she talked about or whatnot? Like, I think it would be extremely interesting. I don't really care about listen, I want to make money, but I wouldn't even care about that if I can kind of get my foot in that door. I think that would be amazing. And I don't know that I would love acting per se. I think I would do more like commercial reads or things like that, because the acting, I feel like I'm too shy, as shocking as that may be. I feel like I'm too shy and not a performer in that way.
No, it's something like, again, and I could totally relate to her when she was talking about, people offering you exposure for instead of actual money. I've been down that road in my DJing career, but I've given everything a thought. Like, I'm sure almost everyone's thought about, I've never actually thought myself as an actor. I think both you and myself, we kind of see us as more producer, director types. I could totally see myself as a director. Like I could totally, which I'm sure a lot of people who don't do it can see it like, oh, sure. But I've always seen myself as a behind the camera person, but I've always thought voiceover work and that kind of thing be good. It'd be the case, having to get over. Are you the same way? Like I hate the sound of my own voice, which something you immediately would have to get over. But, I've never really thought, I thought if I'd had training that if other people can do it, I can do it. I guess that's an ego thing. But I felt like if I had enough training, if I went to, voice acting school or regular acting school, I feel like could do it reasonably well. Not enough to become like famous Hollywood or anything. But I feel like, if I really had put myself into it, that, you know, there could be a spot for me to do voiceover work or that kind of thing. I think with enough training, again, the funniest thing when I see people doing voices, I see them doing badly. I'm like, well, if someone could get paid to do a bad, you know, accent or voice, like, well, why couldn't you if you just had, you know, training or practice into it? So, I mean, if the opportunity ever presented itself, but yeah, it's nothing I've ever thought like, oh, I should sit down and really record my voice and put myself on a voice acting. I don't think my voice is unique enough for it, but I've always seen myself wanting to find out more about directing animation, like especially like with like Lord and Miller, like their stuff, how they get an animation, how they direct and how they do those kind of things. I've found that fascinating, but
I don't hate my voice. I find sometimes if I listen back to something and it's a little too nasally, that's when I get like pissed off. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Right. But you know, when I put on, I guess this voice that I do is a little bit of a put on, but not usually. If I keep it steady, it's good. Like this is cool. But like then when I get into the higher registers, that's when I'm like, all right. So Isabella, thanks for coming on. That was great. Go to her websites, izzyvoice.com and IsabellaTugman.com. She's got a new website coming out, but we don't have that yet. She's got some top secret shit that she can't talk about. That's fine. She's got that audiobook Dino Rift. Do you feel like I don't think she got weirded out or anything when I said pseudo porn. I just thought that was a funny title for it. Romance novels. I'm really curious and I want to find out who her romance novels and what. I want to listen to one. I won't broadcast it. So Isabella, I'm going to hit you up on Twitter. I won't get your name mixed up with the pseudonym, but I want to hear what it sounds like.
No, because you kind of, I mean, you backtrack. I think you caught yourself pretty well, but you can always tell, like when you said, I'm like, because people, obviously they're guests on the show, but you know, I'm pretty sure she's like, I hope this doesn't get weird. You know what I mean? And you backtracked. And I think that's when she's like, okay, he's not going to make this weird. But if you're going like, yeah, tons porn. So have you done any porn? She's going to be like, oh, great. This is the kind of podcast I got to. You backtracked it and caught yourself. So I was glad you did that. But I can kind of see she's like, I hope this doesn't go in that direction. And I was like, I hope he doesn't go in that direction. You know what I mean? Because, you know, she's just, you know, doing an interview. She doesn't really know us. I doubt she's listened. Maybe she's seen some of our episodes on YouTube or whatnot, but no, you caught yourself. That was good. So
there was no catching myself. It was a joke referring to romance novels as pseudo porn because it's basically what it is, but that's fine. To each their own. I thought that was a funny thing to say about it.
No. I of course I know because I know you, but she's just me. And I could just tell like she was hoping like, I hope it doesn't go in this direction. And you're like, no. It's just a joke. She's like, okay.
I don't really have much else for this episode. I think that was a nice interview, a nice way to end the podcast. I don't really have any Chad moments of the week yet. I'm still waiting for the Home Depot thing to be resolved. I do have something I want to ask your opinion on. So I was going to say on vacation. This is not a vacation. I'm staying in this hotel for 30 days, basically. I went to eat the other day at a Buffalo Wild Wings.
Okay.
For lunch, because I had to kill time. Side note, I have ringworm. That's fun, right? Never had it before. Got it from the kittens that we adopted 2 months ago.
I lost you.
Lost me.
Wait. Go back again. I'll say that again. I lost you for a second. No, you're back. But I think you're saying ringworm, but I don't know what you.
You're gonna have to do some editing on the C block here.
I am.
No. Yes, I got ringworm, and I've never had it before. I got it from I think the kittens that we adopted 2 months ago. They had it. My daughter had it because they were staying in her room. And Sunday, I'm in the shower and I look down at the back of my leg because it's a little itchy, and so it fucking looks like a ringworm spot, just like my daughter had. I'm like, fuck. So I go to urgent care. I schedule an appointment to go to urgent care because I'm over here and I don't have my normal doctor, and so it's gonna be a 2-hour wait. So I'm like, let me go get something to eat while I'm waiting. Back to the Buffalo Wild Wings. It's dead in there. There's a few customers, whatever. There's one server maybe working. I get set. I sit down and the server comes over, and I'm not going to say anything bad about the server. And I know she probably can't help this. I just want your opinion on it. The server, I don't even know if I want to say this on. She was, I'm hesitating because I don't want anyone to listen to this and feel weird about it. She was covered in like warts, like her whole body. So listen, I'm not judging anyone. Like I said, she was a good enough waitress. She wasn't great or anything like that, but it weirded me out the entire time because in my mind, whether or not it's what is like old wives' tale or whatnot, you think about the frogs and catching the warts from frogs. It thought in my mind, I'm like, I'm touching the cup she just gave me. I'm touching the food she just brought over. I'm touching the carrots. Like I asked her to get carrots and then she said she was going to go get them. I'm like, oh shit, now I'm not going to eat these. And I didn't eat them. But so, I just want like, is that an irrational fear in my head or would you feel the same way? I left her a tip. I like I said, nothing bad to say about the woman. I'm sure she's a great woman. It's just, I eating the food. It just made me feel weird. That's all. Am I being a total asshole? And let me know for real. I'm sure I am, but
total asshole. No. Now here's the question. Again, we get in these situations. I wish people understand whatever your initial reaction is, it's not, well, how do we say this? I try to explain it this way. Like whatever your initial, your mind, your subconscious first reaction is, it's not your fault that you think those things. It's what you do after the fact that really matters. For example, like Dave Chappelle, when, he was back in the day when he was still doing comedy, he had a reaction where like, say if a big chested woman is wearing like a turtleneck sweater, she's just popping out, you might walk by and be like, damn, look at them titties. But those words shouldn't come out of your mouth, especially towards that woman. You may think those things, but if you say them out of your mouth, especially towards that person, now you're an asshole. You get it? Just thinking those things don't make you wrong. My question is, were there warts like on her hands? I'm guessing this is like a facial type thing, but was it also like...
They were all like over, man. All over.
So, no, it's not wrong to feel that way to begin with. If you had said something to her about it, then you probably would be an asshole. But feeling that way, I don't think it's wrong to feel that way. It's kind of I probably would have acted the same way in your situation. I probably would have been like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to try to eat my meal, probably get as fast, leave a tip, and probably just not, frequent that establishment again, because if it makes you feel weirded out, you can't feel weirded out, even though there's probably no medical condition, nothing wrong with her. It's just probably a skin condition, but you would understand. It's like, hey, it's dealing with my food and, it makes me feel some kind of way about it.
That was my entire thought process. And again, you can't discriminate against people for that kind of stuff, especially with hiring practices and whatnot. It's not like she has to wear a special uniform, like Hooters or Twin Peaks or Tilted Kilt. Like I know they have a different classification because I think my wife looked up the Wikipedia. We were driving the other day and I told her I wanted to go to Twin Peaks and she shut that down. And then she decided to Google everything that was wrong with Twin Peaks and Hooters. And she's reading it to me while we're driving. So there is some special classification that they fall under.
That's awesome. Not only do I not want to go there, I'm going to give you the feminist definition of why you're an asshole for wanting to eat there. Do you know they don't even get their employees' health insurance? How dare you, Mike?
That's basically what it was. We wound up going to Rock and Brews, which I love, but... So yeah, we went to Rock and Brews instead, but yeah, she's giving me all this factual information, which I don't really want to know. Listen, if you choose to work at a restaurant,
like what?
Well, no, like she's like, oh, well, a lot of women have been harassed. I'm like, yeah, I'm not saying it's right, but I mean, I don't even want to say it's expected, but there's so many assholes out there. And I'm an asshole, but not that kind of asshole. Like as a manager at one of those restaurants, you shouldn't be lording your power in any kind of sexual way over these women. And yet that's what these guys do. I get the temptation. I do, but unless it's consensual and it's not used in a position of power, that's the problem. So she's reading me all these stories about how there've been lawsuits and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I just want to eat dinner and maybe see a cute girl in like a Twin Peaks uniform because there's no more. I
just like the wings. It's all about the wings. It's not having, which I thought she was going to say about the customers, but you're saying that her harassment's coming from management.
Yeah. A lot of management stuff. I mean, there's customer stuff too. I think that's kind of to be expected, unfortunately, with the American clientele. Do you remember, did you ever go to Tilted Kilt besides that one time we went in San Diego?
No.
Okay. So surprisingly, they actually do have good food. And I still contest to this day that they have one of the best desserts that I've ever had, the Tilted Gilt. It's a half-baked chocolate chip cookie. They were like one of the starters of that trend. And then everyone else started doing it with some ice cream and hot fudge or whatever on top. They have basically shut down all their locations. I think they're down to like 5 to 10 locations. The closest one to us is in Atlanta. I mean, they used to have 3, 4, 5 locations in Florida that I would frequent on a regular basis for various reasons. But I enjoyed. I would always get the Philly cheesesteak.
And it was called the Tilted Kilt?
Yeah, we went in San Diego, I think at the end of our trip when we went to Comic-Con. You don't remember? It wasn't memorable for you.
Not particularly. I mean, and then is it another one where the girls, are they all wearing like skirts or something, or kilts?
Yeah, they're wearing like basically half, what do they call them? Half shirts, like a schoolgirl kind of top, and then the skirt, the red and plaid skirt. It's supposed to look like a Scottish kind of thing, but
they used to have, what was they called? Sofa Kings. They used to have a few of those, and that's how the girls dressed at those places. Sofa King. Yeah, the beer is Sofa King good, and the wings are Sofa King. It was like, oh my God. And we go there because I went to one, they had one here and then they had one in Las Vegas. And there was something about like going during the happy hour. They had like a really good happy hour special. That's why I remember going both times. But I'm just never, I never really cared about the Hooters things. I mean, before the Hooters, the actual food, the wings were big, but they just doused them in that sauce. And I was just like, oh man, it's like, I guess they're good. But the whole going somewhere where chicks, and then after a while it became, I mean, you can show maybe I'm being the misogynistic asshole, but it seemed like, any girl with any size top could work at Hooters. So I was like, is this really like, why do we even need this whole, and they'd wear those weird, I don't know, sometimes it creeped me out because sometimes they'd wear those weird leggings, but the color would be off. So I don't know, the whole thing would make it look kind of weird. And I was like, I don't even, is Hooters still around? Are they still around here?
Yeah, man, there's a Hooters right near me up here. I'm sure there's one closer to you. Hooters I don't go to as much. I mean, there's definitely not one where I live. The closest one's like 45 minutes to an hour away, and I'm not driving that far just to go to Hooters. The leggings thing, that's always been what they wear. I think it's like kind of part of the uniform, probably for health reasons, I guess, with shorts that they wear, the shorts so short. But the leggings, it depends on the color, obviously. You have to match, you hopefully have something that matches your skin color, because otherwise it's going to look really kind of weird. They actually got into trouble a few months ago, which Heather, again, showed me. They were going to change their uniform, and their employees started really complaining about it because I think it was going to be like a one-piece like swimsuit, but it was really tight or like went up the ass, or I don't know, I forget. But it was like it was even more risque, I guess, in a way. But I didn't find it. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it would have looked great, but I didn't find it any better than the uniform they currently have. So I didn't know why the change. But the change was the outlash was so drastic from I think patrons as well as the girls that work there that they shut that shit down real fast. So but I don't go there anymore anyway. I mean, the wings are okay, but they're not spectacular, as you said. So all right, let's wrap up for this week. You can find us on theusualsaints.com. You can find us streaming everywhere on there. I have the pages set up. The Isabella Tugman interview will be up on the website as well, on the main page eventually, once I get around to helping Saint with that, unless he wants to take a crack at it. Although I think I have to do that on my computer at home. So go to the Usual Saints on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at usualsaints@gmail.com. We didn't have any more reviews this week, so I couldn't read any. So again, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. I don't know if any other podcasting sites, maybe Spotify takes ratings now, but Apple Podcasts is where I'm going to look and see the ratings. So definitely go to Apple Podcasts, even if you have to go on just the web and do a review for us, and we'll read your review. And you say whatever the fuck you want, and we will read it. I don't care what it says. I will read anything that is put in front of me. I guess that's a good mark of a voiceover artist. So again, I want to thank Isabella for coming on the show. Sainte, we'll do this again next week. And that's it for the usual Saints. For Sainte, I'm Mike D. Thanks for listening.
In 2022.
Oh, that's right. This is the last show of the new year or the year. Oh, wait, this one's coming out. This is the first show of the year, boy.